She only swiveled her chair once, and the 3 veterans at the table behind her shot to their feet, like they'd just seen a sign they thought had vanished forever. The clink of silverware on trays slowed. Laura West had only turned to reach down when the hem of her polo shirt lifted slightly, revealing the edge of a black tattoo stretched across her shoulder blade, a war eagle, talons extended, with the code VX097310 beneath. It was only there for a second, but long enough for 2 soldiers at the next table to exchange a glance. One gave a subtle shake of the head. The other set his coffee down slowly, as if making sure he hadn't imagined it. Karen Brooks, an instructor at Fort Blackhawk, leaned toward Laura, her voice low but her eyes flicking to the soldiers beside them. "If what you just said is real, my soldiers will have a better chance of surviving." Laura answered with a faint smile, but her shoulders tightened, a telltale sign of someone used to reading every movement in the room. Dan Mercer, sitting beside her, set his coffee cup down with a sharp clack, like marking an invisible turning point in the conversation. A deep, steady voice cut in. "Sounds like you've been there. Haven't you?" The table turned. Master Sergeant Ray Collins, 58, weathered face, salt and pepper hair, uniform faded from years of wear, was walking toward them. His gaze wasn't the polite curiosity of a stranger. It was the kind that compared the person in front of him to a file in his head. Karen made the introduction. "Ray, this is Laura West, our new training advisor." Ray gave a brief nod. "What will my soldiers learn from you?" Laura had heard that question before. "I was a combat medic, deployed in Afghanistan from 2007 to 2010, then civilian emergency response, then training." Ray paused, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. "Those were hard years. We lost a lot of good people. The ones who made it back carried stories they'd never tell." Laura stayed silent, her gaze steady, but Karen could tell Collins hadn't forgotten the glimpse of that tattoo, and he wasn't the only one. As the conversation drifted to training protocols, Laura noticed people at other tables listening in. Some stared into their trays, others slid out their phones, thumbs moving fast. She didn't need to guess what the messages said. "New advisor. Anyone know her?" served in AFG morning light streamed through the windows, painting gold streaks across the floor. Laura checked her watch. 07:58. Her first session with Fort Blackhawk's most elite medics was minutes away. She stood, gathered her tray, and walked out. A few eyes still followed, not hostile, but with the cold appraisal every outsider faced. At Fort Blackhawk, the first 24 hours determined whether you earned respect or stayed outside the circle. And she knew the glimpse of that tattoo would be repeated across the base before the day was over. Rumors had found their anchor. The first 24 hours had set the tone. Curiosity, suspicion, and eyes not yet ready to trust. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Stories Unseen so you never miss the next intense military story. Laura had barely stepped into the room when the lights cut out. The roar of helicopter rotors thundered overhead, and 12 medics snapped their heads toward her like she just triggered a war alarm. The steel door to the Combat Medic Training Center shut behind her, sealing off every sound from the base. No marching boots, no rumble of trucks, just cold white light reflecting off a spotless vinyl floor. 12 elite medics sat in a half arc. None stood at attention, but none were relaxed either, their postures balanced dangerously between discipline and judgment. Civilians in instructor roles here were rare, and usually had to prove themselves within minutes. Laura set a dark leather bag on the table. The leather was worn, the buckles dulled, but the stitching still straight and strong, a bag carried for years by someone who didn't quit. "Sit easy," she said, not loud, but her voice carried. "For the next 2 weeks, I'll teach you what the manuals don't. Out here, gear will fail, orders will be vague, and you'll have more wounded than you can treat." Sergeant First Class Juan Herrera raised a hand, calm voice but probing eyes. "Ma'am, the battlefield for a medic is different from the front line. What have you seen that makes you qualified to teach us Afghanistan? 2007 to 2010. Fobs, convoys, and things that never made it into the reports. A dry laugh came from the second row, Corporal Luke Gray. Plenty of people served in Afghanistan. We need a real reason to believe your experience will keep us alive. Laura's reply was clipped. I'll show you. She walked to the control panel, pressed a button. The lights shifted to a deep red. Rotor blades and explosions echoed from ceiling speakers. Cold air rushed down, dropping the room's temperature in seconds. Warm-up drill. She said, no prep, no warning. From the four corners of the room, casualty mannequins rolled out chest wounds, gut ruptures, amputations, arterial bleeds. A 15-minute countdown flashed on the wall. Laura assigned without hesitation, Guerrero. Gray chest and abdominal, Herrera. Cox amputations. Rest set up a casualty collection point. Prep for medevac. 2 minutes in, Guerrero's suction device sputtered and died. The young medic froze. Guerrero, when the gear's dead, what do you do without it? She hesitated, then grabbed a water bottle, spraying hard to clear the airway. Not by the book, but the fake blood slowed. Laura nodded. Good. In the field. Working gear's a luxury. Gray was still fumbling with the pressure bandage. Need a proper wrap, he snapped. Don't have one, Laura shot back. The casualty's bleeding out. 10 minutes left. He gritted his teeth. Laura dropped to her knees, yanked a t-shirt from the med kit, twisted it into a tourniquet, clamped it over the artery, then crisscrossed the wrap. The mannequin's heartbeat stabilized. Don't worship the tools. Worship the principles, she said. Eyes locked on Gray. The medics began breaking out of their comfort zones, cargo belts, mock rifle tubing, old gloves, anything became a life-saving tool. The pace was relentless, but their workflow grew sharper. When Laura bent to check Herrera, her polo stretched tight, revealing the upper edge of the War Eagle tattoo and the VX09 7310 code across her back. Guerrero caught it for half a second, not out of curiosity, but with the recognition of someone who had seen that marking in a classified report. 5 minutes left. The PA system blared a fake update, medevac delayed. Hold for 12 more minutes. A muttered curse broke the air. Guerrero shifted casualties. Herrera shielded them from incoming shrapnel. Gray finally followed orders without a word. Laura stood in the center, scanning the room. No one was treating this like a warm-up drill anymore. When the clock hit 0, the lights came back up. Rotor noise died. Laura stepped forward. Tomorrow, it won't just be casualties. You'll see things you don't want to imagine. She locked the control panel, slung her bag, and walked out. The steel door sealed behind her, leaving 12 medics with the realization that the next 2 weeks would either change them or crush them. 5. 10 hours. The alarm siren tore through the morning mist. No one had touched their first sip of coffee before being herded outside, rain soaking their jackets. Laura was already there in a dark gray rain shell, saying nothing except today. We work outside. The training field had been turned into a war-torn village, collapsed brick houses, burned out APCs, colored smoke drifting from corners. Loudspeakers blasted gunfire, explosions, and screaming for help. You'll move 1 mile through this terrain. Treat the wounded, then extract before enemy contact. Time limit 20 minutes. No one asked questions. Herrera led. Guerrero in the middle. Gray on rear guard. The rain turned the dirt into slick mud. They found the first casualty, a mannequin with abdominal trauma. Weak pulse. Guerrero knelt to work, but a simulated mortar blast went off nearby. An unplanned civilian casualty actor staggered out, shirt drenched in fake blood. Not in the scenario, Gray barked. Leave them stick to the mission. Guerrero hesitated. Laura stepped in. Voice. Carrying your choice saves or kills someone. Decide now. Guerrero clenched her jaw and dragged the civilian into the treatment area. Gray shot her a glare but kept moving. 300 meters from the objective. The team entered a narrow street. The loudspeakers thundered, "Enemy approaching." 2 minutes out, Laura signaled another critical casualty was planted in the open. Herrera's medkit was suddenly missing pressure wraps and morphine removed earlier by Laura to simulate shortages. "Improvise," she ordered. Herrera used a rifle sling as a tourniquet, wrapped the wound with a headscarf from an actor's pack. Gray, holding the rear, was hit twice by sim rounds' bright red splashes on his rain shell. He cursed, dragged the casualty behind cover. When Laura bent to help Guerrero lift the stretcher, her raincoat shifted, exposing more of the black tattoo-hooked beak eagle. Talons wide, a faint compass in the background, and the VX097310 code. Herrera froze mid-tourniquet. "Ma'am, that," Laura straightened, covering it. Her voice was ice. "Focus on your casualty, Sergeant." That shut down the question. But the suspicion was planted, and Gray had seen it too. They slogged through the mud, rain lashing their faces. The enemy force appeared, paintball guns sweeping toward them. Guerrero slipped, nearly dropping the stretcher. "Hold on," Gray barked, rushing to grab it, taking another paint hit to the back, 50 meters to the extraction gate. Laura sprinted alongside, grabbed one side of the stretcher. "Move, don't look back." The team burst through just as the clock hit 000. The PA cut off. Yellow light signaled End X. Laura exhaled. Voice level Herrera good. Field tourniquet beats dying waiting for perfect gear. Guerrero civilian extraction was risky, but acceptable. Gray 2 hits. In real life, you're dead before your casualty is safe. Gray stayed silent. Laura swept her gaze over them. The battlefield doesn't care about the manual. From now on. Neither do you. She walked off into the rain. In Herrera's mind, the eagle in the code looped with a single question. Who is Laura West? Really, the rain kept falling into the afternoon. The medics thought training was done until Laura called them back to the urban mock-up. "Second scenario," she said flatly. "Details come over radio during movement. No pre-brief." They deployed. Guerrero caught fragments over the static. "Casualty. Building 7. Enemy fire." Herrera frowned. "Are they simulating live fire?" "I didn't hear Ramos authorize that." Laura only said, "On the battlefield. No one asks before shooting at you." 5 minutes later, they turned into an alley gunfire cracked. But this wasn't sim rounds. It was live fire, sharp, dry, with that unmistakable echo. Laura froze. "Scanning. Cover now." Gray shouted, "What the hell? This isn't part of the drill." A shadow appeared on the opposite rooftop. Rifle aimed down. The gear wasn't Fort Blackhawk issue. Herrera recognized the scorched wood stock, a mercenary's weapon from the Narvac border. Laura didn't need a second look. "Cover the casualty, Herrera. Hold your position." She pulled a training carbine from her pack, normally loaded with paint rounds, but in one smooth motion, swapped the mag for a real one wrapped in waterproof cloth. Rain streamed down her face. She aimed, one heartbeat, fired. The rooftop shooter crumpled, rifle clattering down. Silence swallowed the street. Her coat shifted again, revealing the full tattoo, hooked beak eagle, compass, and VX097310. Herrera's blood ran cold. He remembered the emblem of Operation Shadow Talon, a covert op 12 years ago, where an off-the-books unit stopped a chemical bomb plot in Narvac. Only 4 survived. All records erased. "Move," Laura ordered, pulling the team out. No one argued. Back at the safe zone. Gray was still stunned. That wasn't training. Laura set the carbine down, checked each person. Everyone's intact. No injuries. Exercise over. Herrera started to speak, but Laura's eyes cold. Deep. Final shut him down. Minutes later, MPs locked down the area, sweeping for the intruder. Rumors spread fast. Someone fired live rounds during the drill. Karen Brooks found her. "I have to report this. Report it, Laura said, but don't put in the file what you can't prove. Karen hesitated, then walked away. On the way back to quarters, Herrera fell in step beside her. VX09, YARS 7310. I've seen that in a classified report. Shadow Talon's soldiers were all dead except... Laura cut him off. Sergeant, sometimes knowing less keeps you alive longer. Herrera stopped, letting her walk away alone through the rain. In his mind, the puzzle pieces were starting to fit, and the picture was dangerous. That night, Fort Blackhawk's command center glowed under dim amber lights. After the afternoon breach, security was doubled. MPs patrolled non-stop. Cameras swept like the eyes of a predator. Laura sat alone in the small conference room, absently turning a metal mug in her hands, listening to the steady rhythm of rain against the glass. The door opened. Sergeant Major Ramos walked in, followed by Karen Brooks and Master Sergeant Ray Collins. Ramos took the seat across from her. No notebook, no pen. Miss West, I want to hear your account of the incident. Specifically, how you took the shot. Laura set the mug down, met his gaze. An intruder entered with a live weapon. I acted to protect the trainees. Result: 0 injuries. Training objectives met despite the situation exceeding planned parameters. Ray's voice was deliberate. That kind of reaction doesn't come from civilian training. Karen tapped her tablet, projecting security footage onto the wall. The freeze frame was unmistakable the instant Laura dropped the target, along with the War Eagle tattoo and the code VX09 7310 clear on her back. Karen said quietly, I searched the military database. No unit is registered to that insignia. Laura allowed herself a small smile. Some things aren't registered. Ramos folded his arms. We've found signs the intruder wasn't working alone. There's a chance he was testing the base's response. Ray glanced at Laura. If that's true, then he's got his answer, and that answer will make you a target. Laura's reply was calm to the point of unnerving. Wouldn't be the first time. When the meeting broke, Ray stopped her in the dim hallway. Rain outside softened their voices. VX09 7310. I've heard it before. Shadow Talon, Narvac, 2011. Mission didn't exist, and no one made it out alive. Laura stepped closer, only an arm's length away. That report is wrong in one detail. Ray's eyes narrowed. What detail? She leaned in, her voice a low whisper. One person survived, and you're talking to her. Ray drew back half a step, part shock, part doubt. Laura adjusted her jacket, hiding the tattoo again. Sergeant, if you want a long life, forget this conversation. Some doors once opened can't be closed. Ray said nothing. Outside, the rain seemed heavier, swallowing the light along the corridor. Laura left the building, crossing the rain-slick courtyard. In a shadowed corner, a black SUV sat parked, engine silent. She glanced over and froze. On the windshield lay a small metal tag, engraved with the same eagle from her tattoo, but with the code VX09E7320. Her grip tightened around the tag, her eyes darkening. No one alive should know that number, except 3 people, and 2 of them had been dead for 12 years. The night swallowed her silhouette as she disappeared into the barracks, leaving Fort Blackhawk in a tightening coil of suspicion and rumor. Somewhere out there, the game had just started again. Thank you for watching.